All right, so first year was 2012, crazy getting into it. Quad guy playing or teaching the snares, quad player leading the snares, worked out. Obviously, Nick's just a freak talent and like intellectual, and
Yeah,
I've only heard just Dean
and a
rave
handsome
about.
devil, handsome devil.
Yeah, I've only heard Dean just rave about Nick and what he brings to the table. But so you were there. What was your last year at BD then?
2017.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
So 15 was another Fred Sanford, right? The Ink Show.
Yes.
That,
Yeah, we
if
did.
I'm remembering correctly, and they
Yeah,
also won that year.
it was
Ink,
a battle of averages that year. I think we won one night, and Vanguard and Bluecoats flipped for winning, but we stayed in second. So I think they were like the hell, something like
they were
that.
like 1-3, 1-3, but you all were like 1-2-2 or something like that.
Yes, yeah. So it just worked out, you know. I mean, thank God. I thought it was a great line. I mean, that group played well. That snare line was a great snare line. They were great guys. That whole group was great. It took a
Matt
while for
Damon
that
in there,
show.
aka Ryan Ellis. Um,
Well, it's funny. I almost mentioned Ryan because you're talking about your drum. He bought his drum from 15. I almost brought that up when you said you wanted your drum. But yeah, we worked it out. His mom came to me and said she wanted to buy the drum. So I went to Scott and he talked to everybody and got it done. And we gave, like when he turned his drum in, I was the guy, you know, that took all the stuff. And I took it and I said, here you go. And I gave it right back to him. He was like, what are you doing? It's like, and his mom was standing there, you know, she had a big shit eating grin on her face. His mom's awesome if you know his mom, by the way.
that's awesome.
Super sweet. Yeah. So
that's the one thing I wish I would have done. I would buy one of the 2010 Blue Star drums, Pearl drums, in a heartbeat. I can't.
Well, especially back then because they weren't wraps; they were all lacquered.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. They
Now
were
it's
cherry
like-
red. The color was a cherry red in 2010. They were freaking gorgeous.
Dude, cherry reds are gorgeous anywhere. Put any cherry red drum.
Yeah, they were beautiful. And I actually almost tracked them down. I think some like either DCA Core used them for a while after that summer, or I don't know. But I wish I would have pursued trying to buy one. But you
Probably
know,
some high school now.
yeah, probably spread apart a bunch of different schools and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Probably not gonna find that.
No, that is
Or-
gone to the ages.
Yeah.
Before we move into some of what you have going on now, and then also kind of talk about transitioning from like rudimental drumming to drum set, which you obviously you've been doing a lot of. You did
Can I
mention.
mention one more thing?
Yes.
This is just a pat on my team's back. That in 2017 we did not win drums, but we did win high percussion finals night, and I totally don't take credit for that. But I say that because that drum line deserved. Again, that was a great group. So if anybody's listening to this, you know, and you know Vanguard won that year, of course they deserve to win. They're Vanguard. They were amazing. But that group of dudes deserved to be recognized for the work they put in the entire season. And they didn't win it, but they got some love. So just giving a little love out there. Sorry to interrupt.
That was the Metamorph show where you had like
Yes.
20 snare drums, right?
16, yes.
16, yeah. Not the whole show if you haven't seen it, but go check it out for sure.
Well, maybe was it? It was 4 quads and 5 basses. Oh, it was not. It was 18. So it was 9 and 9. Yeah.
Nine.
Sorry.
Okay. Nine, yeah. That's right. All right. Sorry, I can't even remember either.
We were
So
perfectly
before-
off by 2. I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you, bro. I'm sorry. Sorry,
It's
everybody.
again, I dig it. I'm totally down. You did say that you thought there was a slight difference in the style of quad drumming now versus maybe 2000, early 2000s ish. Hit me with that.
Oh, I'm sorry, everybody, again. Yeah. Well, I've obviously eased into my comfort zone here. So this is my opinion. And there's going to be people that are before this time that are going to know how it got to that. But I believe that quads really changed. So when Tom Float took over Caption Head at Blue Devils, Scott and him kind of butted heads on who was going to write parts whenever. So, or who was going to work with who. And Scott ultimately took the quads, but under the conditions that he wrote the quad arounds. Tom would write the book, but he wrote everything on the B line, and then Scott would put everything around. So Scott actually really got quad drumming around. I think Scott has a big hand in that. Fast forward to Sean Vega. He was the first person that I thought played with real rebound and style, and he didn't just play drums. He wanted to look like he was a great drum player. So he incorporated the aesthetic of an amazing player into the way he played. Now, I bring Sean up because I really think he was the first of his kind. You can go back to 97, 96, 95, and if you can get some videos, you'll notice he has the best set positions, the best angles, the way his sticks move. And you fast forward, his last year was Rudy's first year. Rudy's 17. He's an amazing talent. And Rudy was there for 5 years studying with just Sean. And at that time, they drummed in the off season as well. And so anyway, that's how the West Coast thing is. So I really think Rudy really elevated Sean's style. All right. Now we're getting to where I was finally going to take off. So you've got Miguel and Tim are finally meeting up. Miguel drummed with Rudy for 4 years and took lessons from Vega. Now Miguel and Rudy are meeting up. Or I'm sorry, Miguel and Tim are meeting up. Tim's bringing some of that back out to Rhythm X. Now Rhythm X has an incredibly competitive quad line compared to like the West Coast, but nobody else really does, right? Then 2008, I think 2009, 2010, 2009, 2008, 2009, Jeremy goes to Bluecoats. And Jeremy takes everything that we've been doing at RCC to Bluecoats. And I believe that that was the first time that I started to see other quad lines outside of Rhythm X and West Coast stuff starting to actually drum like we did. And what I mean by that is the way they move around the drums, the method of motion, the rules that you use to create your motion, and things like that. They adopted all that. And then that, that group, a lot of those players, some of them were coming from the West Coast, and then they were giving out their education. And I really think that move and the advent, I think YouTube started busting around 2005, right? 2006, 2007. So that plus that, and then those quad players that were taught by the West Coasters are now getting more jobs, and it's all branching out. And of course, everybody's swimming and everybody's getting higher educations and moving around and really turning this activity into a business. If I were to say, based on what I saw, that's when I started to see the melting pot of West Coast kind of dissolving the old East Coast style and everything coming in. And I really think everything really looks like that a lot now. And if this was a video and I had a set of quads, I could demonstrate the specific differences between that particular style and like what we did. Now, of course, things have elevated and changed, but I still see things, and I noticed this at Rhythm X too, with the way that kids or young adults approach certain things. And I still feel like I can bring this style of West Coast that even now exists here a little bit, but will have real like bedrock to the method of motion that they're doing. And there's some other things that go along with that I'll keep secret, but if you're watching this, you can DM me for a lesson and I'll gladly share what some of that is. But I genuinely, I have no fears in saying that if you were to give me a group of players, and I was able to spend the right amount of time with them, I think that's the asterisk at the bottom of the page, that you would be like, damn, these guys look like West Coast quad guys for sure. And I think that it's just because of how many years I spent on both sides of it, So that's my opinion. And when I said somebody might change it, I thought about Glenn Crosby being like, yeah, but.
Yeah, so those years that you mentioned too, like 2008 to like 2012 when Jeremy's kind of at Bluecoats and stuff too, there was a lot of crossover from Rhythm X. Like I think that obviously there's a huge connection of RCC to BD, but those years like 08, 09, 2010.
You guys got Amador, you had Scott Nelson, and then Daniel Ricoder. Daniel didn't march SoCal, but he was a Rudy student from NorCal.
Right. Then on the indoor side, like from Rhythm X, you had Matt Bauer, Ryan Klaus, Dean Hickman. Like they all marched BD.
Yep.
And then all marched Rhythm X.
Yep.
So they were kind of like bringing that back to this whatever you call it, Midwest Ohio like area.
Yeah, it was a real explosion. And I did forget to mention Mike Stevens, who has been ostracized. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but Mike Stevens was he was a Q5 guy, Blue Devil guy, and he went to cadets in 93, 94.
Didn't Mike Stevens write Flamnabulous?
Yeah, and he's the guy who came up with the coin the phrase QB, which, by the way, I'll also say on this podcast, the lowercase version of QB was created by us in 03. We made the first shirt then, which they still do today, but I know they have no idea who did that first shirt. And if you don't believe me, you can hit up Kenny Isidoro, who still has that shirt.
Dick.
History. Anyway, so I should mention Mike, because he was one of the very first West Coasters to come over to the East Coast and share some of that.
That's sick. That's a great story. I did not know that.
Yeah, me neither.
My opinion. By the way, I mentioned Miguel Guadarrama. Nobody knows about him. He's also still probably one of the best quad players I've ever seen. So if you were listening to this, I think his Instagram handle is Secret Steez. He doesn't put a bunch of quad videos out, but go bother him because you'll be impressed. I guarantee it.
Nice.
Give him all the info.
Yeah.
So we talked about it briefly before. We just kind of hit on your tenure and all that. But you have devoted, obviously, lengthy amount of time to the marching arts. But this past year, 2021, I saw your Instagram post where you said you were going to embark on an endeavor to drum every single day for the year or something like that. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. But just like take us through like what made you want to do that, and then like some of these crossovers from rudimental drumming that apply to drum set, and like the kids or somebody that's wanting to get into that could take away from it.
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking. This is where I'm at currently today, and it's the thing that I'm most excited about right now. And it's the same reason that I left cadets to go to BD. At some point, you've got to remove your shell and get into a bigger one so you can grow. And to be honest, I haven't been thrilled with rudimental percussion lately. I like to teach it, but I don't like to play it. I kind of feel like I've kind of experienced it. So I decided that it was time for me to evolve my playing as a musician and as a drummer. So last year, December 24th, I sat down at my drum set and started playing, made my first video, which I had never done because I'm just not one of those guys, which is probably why a lot of people don't know who I am, but I just don't do all that, or I hadn't. So fast forward, I drummed like 5 or 6 days in a row. New Year's Eve is coming up, and I'm standing in my kitchen. I told my mom, I was like, I really want to believe in myself again. I really want to earn the confidence that the back of my mind tells me I deserve, but I'm too afraid to have. And I realized that I had the talent. I just truly hadn't put in the amount of work on my own skills as I had spent on giving other people their skills. So I made a very simple rule. No pressure. You never have to practice, but you'll drum every single day for a minimum of 30 minutes. The rules are simple. You have to sit at a drum set. There has to be pedals, and that's it. You just have to sit. So no pad work. You can't just drum with a pad. I don't count playing vibraphone. I don't count anything else. It has to be sitting down at a kit, real drums with pedals. Well, I would do electronic drums, but I just haven't. And so those were the rules. And the big thing with that is, with any New Year's resolution, you start out hard because you're trying to change. And eventually you burn yourself out or you overdo it mentally. And so what I did is I just thought any day I wasn't in the mood or I was getting frustrated or whatever, I just thought, whatever, I'm just going to put on my favorite songs and play because it makes me happy. And the main goal was to nurture my talents. I think a lot of people think about practice and getting like achieving goals and checking things off. And they forget that music isn't like MMA or football or basketball, or it doesn't have to end at a certain age because you physically can't do it. It's a lifelong gift that once you learn certain things, you have them forever. And that to me was inspiring in itself, and I just hadn't looked at it that way. So I just did it. And of course, 30 minutes turned into an hour, turned into 2 hours, turned into 4 hours, it turned into buying a set of microphones and a new drum set and lights. And so what I ended up doing was I got really bored with the rock and roll stuff, which is what I was comfortable with. And I started to branch out. I started trying to play other things. Ended up taking a lesson with Brandon Zaki, if you can believe that. Even though he was my student, he's killing it, and he's a metal drummer, and I was struggling with some foot technique stuff, and so I took a lesson from him, and all the commentary he gave me was techniques he'd learned from a jazz drum set player. So I implemented them the very next day, and it sucked because I basically sucked for about 2 weeks. I had to basically relearn my motor skills. And I'm not kidding. If you play heel up stuff like that your whole life, on the kick, and you go to heel down, it feels weird, and you've got to learn it, but it creates control and opportunities for dynamics and things like that. So anyway, I did all that. And so I started to get interested in jazz because, to be honest with you, and this is where I'll tangent in a bit to the rudimental connection, jazz scared me. Latin music scared me. Slow brush ballads scared me. Getting called to do a gig that didn't have a rehearsal before it scared me. And I just thought to myself, why am I scared? But there's other people that I believe were less talented that were doing this just fine. And I realized it was just a lack of effort and a lack of experience and a lack of humility. I was so used to standing in front of the best in the world that I thought I had to be the best all the time and that people couldn't see me suck. So part of my videos was to just show my journey and to let other people know that you're not going to sound great all the time. Just wanted to show and commit to presenting that. And it was really good because once you start to tear those walls down, you start to get better because all of a sudden it's not about competition. It's about the arts, and it's the same as taking a walk with your dog and you just enjoy nature, or it's the same, going to dinner with your woman. You enjoy that time that you spend on it, and it occupies your mind in a positive way. And for me, that's what it was. So
just to interject real quick, I think that makes a lot of sense too. And like you talking about just posting what you did, like, might not be the best thing, blah, 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 blah. But I think that is probably the most inspiring thing to like young students. And what I tell kids all the time, it's like, look, and I've said it on this podcast several times, like there was a point when I sucked at drums, just like all of us. But you can't just always see the filtered social media version of like, oh yeah, I was in Crown 2009 on finals night when we were playing our best of the year. And it's like, yeah, but when I was 15, 16, like I wasn't even playing traditional grip. I didn't know how to hold it. I sucked at like playing doubles. Like, I mean, there's just so much stuff. Like it's a process, and that journey is grueling, but it's satisfying if you commit to it and you stick with it. So it's not always about like, oh yeah, he's so great all the time. It's like, nah, bro, that ain't it.
And I think a little bit as the emotional and social challenges that come along with just music and kind of the demographic, the way that it works, like if you grow up in all marching band, competition is what you do and you have to play good all the time. Precision is the goal. And while that's very fun and it makes you very technical and you can execute things, it does take away, like it distracts you from what I believe now is the main purpose, which is just to give me purpose, to have something that I can believe is my own, that is a calling card. I just think that life needs purpose. Personally, I think more than a paycheck, I need to believe that my life means something, and that I did something with my body and my mind that was productive, and worth living. But yeah, I think a lot of people don't know. And I was afraid to post those videos because I thought people would think that I sucked, or they would be teching me, or then they wouldn't want to hire me because now, I thought I wanted this guy, but did you see the mix of his audio wasn't good, and now we can't trust his ear. Things like that mess with your mind. You know what I mean? Because I posted a video last week, and it was my first drum only video, and I hated it. But I left it up.
When Evan and I started this podcast 3.5 years ago now, Evan, something like that, whatever it was, we had no idea what we were doing, and we were just like, you know what? All these self-help motivational gurus that are bullshit most of the time, but like the one thing I think they get right a lot, just start doing it. Just do it.
Yeah.
We go back and listen to our early episodes. Like I've tried to go back and like pull clips and stuff for the YouTube channel, like short little 5-minute clips.
And you can't do it. Huh?
I'm like, dude, I can't even listen to this. Why did anyone listen to what we were doing? And there's still probably audio improvements we could make or things we could do better, but we've gotten a whole hell of a lot better at it, and we just kind of stuck with it and got the reps in. To relate it to marching band, like we got the reps in and just kept doing it.
All right, to reel us back in from our philosophical like adventure here, like,
well, yeah, I do have to talk about bringing the marching to the drum set.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know that you're probably on a time limit, but I was going to say this one thing too.
We are not on a time limit,
dude.
This last philosophical thing, but the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried, and it's one of those dumb things that you're like, you expect like the generic coach to tell you, But the truth is, like, yeah, you got to go look stupid sometimes, because if you don't do it, you don't know how to adjust, and so